I used to believe we had the kind of marriage people envied. On paper, we did. 2 kids, a warm house in the suburbs, weekend brunches, and matching pajamas every Christmas. Friends would comment on how lucky I was.
He's so calm, they'd say.
So devoted. And he was. Or at least he used to be. But over time, the silence between us grew louder. It wasn't anything dramatic. No screaming fights. No slammed doors. Just absence. He'd come home late from work, offer a quick kiss on the forehead, then disappear behind his phone or a laptop. Our conversations became transactional. Did you pay the electric bill? Can you pick up Emma from dance? Don't forget the parent-teacher meeting. I tried to bring us back, date nights, new lingerie, cooking his favorite meals. But nothing stuck. It was like hugging a ghost. Familiar but cold. At first, I blamed the season. Then the stress. Then the kids. Eventually, I blamed myself. So, I signed up for a part-time administrative job at a local real estate firm. I told him it was to help with the bills, but truthfully, I needed something that reminded me I was more than a mother or a wife. I wanted to feel useful, seen. That's where I met Daniel. He wasn't extraordinary. Not in the way you'd expect from a story like this. He didn't have a chiseled jaw or dazzling smile. But he noticed things. He listened, really listened. When I talked about my son's allergy flare-ups or how tired I'd been feeling, he didn't nod absently like my husband did. He leaned in, asked questions, remembered the details. It started with small gestures. A coffee placed beside my desk before I even asked. Compliments that weren't rehearsed. Once, during a hectic day at the office, he looked at me and said, "You hold everything together, don't you?" I didn't respond. I couldn't. No one had said something like that to me in years. One afternoon, I laughed at something he said, really laughed. The kind of laugh that caught me off guard, because I didn't know I still had it in me. He smiled, almost shyly, and I felt a flicker of guilt. But I brushed it off. It was harmless.
Right?
But then, as I bent down to pick up a stack of papers that had spilled across the floor, I felt him behind me.
Close.
Too close. My breath caught, not because I was scared, but because for the first time in years, I felt something. When I straightened up, our eyes met. He didn't move away.
And neither did I.
I told myself it was a moment. Just that. A fragile, passing thing. But deep down, I knew. Something had shifted. A door had opened, and I wasn't sure I wanted to close it. The days that followed felt different. Not in any obvious way, no fireworks or scandal. Just a subtle current under the surface, like standing knee-deep in a river and realizing the water's moving faster than you thought. I caught myself dressing more intentionally, applying lipstick in the morning even when I was already late, spraying a touch of perfume before heading out the door. At home, I kept things running as always. Dinners were cooked, laundry folded, the kids tucked into bed. My husband, Mark, never noticed a thing. Or if he did, he never said it. He was still buried in emails by the time I slipped under the covers beside him. We hadn't touched in weeks, hadn't kissed with meaning in months. But at work, I felt awake. Daniel started finding reasons to linger. After meetings, he'd stay behind under the pretense of organizing files or reviewing numbers, but we both knew the truth. Our conversations stretched longer. We moved from work topics to personal ones, childhood memories, favorite songs, regrets. It felt easy, natural, dangerous. There was no grand declaration, no sweeping confession. Just a growing intimacy neither of us dared name. One afternoon, we stayed late to finish quarterly reports. The office was quiet, most lights dimmed, just the soft hum of the copier in the background. I dropped a pen and leaned over to retrieve it, then felt the warmth of him behind me again. It wasn't accidental this time. There was intention in his stillness, in how close he stood without touching. My heart pounded like a warning bell. I straightened slowly. He didn't say a word. Neither did I. Instead, I turned to him, our faces inches apart. I saw the question in his eyes, and for a second I almost answered it. But I stepped back. "I should go," I whispered, grabbing my purse. He didn't follow me. But he didn't look away either. That night, I lay beside Mark as he scrolled through his phone. I stared at the ceiling and tried to forget how Daniel had made me feel. Wanted, seen, like a woman instead of a utility. Guilt simmered beneath my skin, but it wasn't enough to burn the ache out of me. I wasn't innocent, but I hadn't done anything yet. Still, the line had blurred, and I could no longer tell which side I was standing on. In the quiet of our bedroom, Mark reached over and brushed my arm. "Everything okay?" he asked, eyes still on his screen. I swallowed hard. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was hungry for connection, for passion, for something real. And part of me already knew where I'd find it. It didn't happen the way I'd imagined. There was no dramatic music playing, no flickering candlelight, no deliberate seduction. Just two people, tired, unraveling, and holding on to something that felt dangerously alive. It was a Friday. Everyone else had left the office early for a team dinner I had purposely skipped. I told them I had a migraine, but the truth was I couldn't stomach the small talk or the charade anymore. Daniel stayed behind too, citing loose ends with a smirk that told me everything I didn't want to admit. We were alone. He brought 2 coffees into the conference room where I sat, papers spread in front of me like a shield. I remember the way he placed the cup in front of me gently, his fingers brushing mine. Just a second too long. I looked up, and he was already watching me. "You okay?" he asked. No one had asked me that in weeks, maybe months. And even if they had, not like this, not with such weight behind it. I nodded, but I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat felt like it was closing, not from fear, but from everything I was holding in.
He didn't push.
He just sat down, facing me, letting the silence fill the space between us. That's when I broke. "I feel invisible," I said. The words came out too quickly, like a confession I'd been waiting to deliver to someone, anyone who would truly hear it. At home. With him. With myself. I don't know when I disappeared, but I can't find my way back. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You're not invisible," he said, voice low. "You've just been with someone who forgot how to look." It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even comforting. It was devastating. Because it felt true. I stood up, suddenly needing space, air, anything but that table between us. I walked toward the window, staring out at the empty parking lot below. And then I heard his footsteps behind me.
He didn't touch me, not yet.
He waited, always waiting. But his presence was a force. I could feel the heat of him at my back, and for a moment, I wanted to run. Instead, I turned around. The distance between us was gone in an instant. His hand grazed my cheek. I closed my eyes and leaned in, not out of recklessness, but from something deeper. Desperation. Hunger. Grief. The kiss was slow, deliberate. Not filled with passion, but ache. I didn't think about my husband. I didn't think about the kids or the consequences. I just thought, this is what it feels like to be wanted. And that thought shattered me. Later, I sat alone in my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at my reflection in the dark window and whispered to myself, "What have you done?" But I already knew. I'd crossed a line I could never uncross. The days after were a blur of habit and denial. I woke early, made breakfast, packed school lunches, smiled when necessary. I went through motions so well I almost believed myself. But underneath, I was a fault line waiting to give way. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every time Mark looked at me, I wondered if he knew.
He didn't, not yet.
But something had shifted in him, too. His usual aloofness gave way to something quieter, watchful, present. One night, he came home earlier than usual. No laptop. No distractions. Just him. We sat across from each other at the dinner table, kids already asleep, the air between us thick with unspoken words. He cleared his throat and said, "You've been distant." I almost laughed at the irony. "I'm just tired," I murmured, my usual answer. He nodded, then paused. "Are you seeing someone?" The question landed with the weight of a falling building. I stared at him, stunned. Not because he asked, but because of how calmly he did. No anger. No accusation. Just quiet devastation barely concealed behind his eyes. I couldn't lie. Not anymore. I didn't mean for it to happen, I said. My voice trembled. It wasn't planned. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking. Was it just once? He asked. Yes. Silence. Then, after what felt like forever, he stood up, pushed his chair back, and walked to the sink. He didn't yell.
He didn't throw anything.
He just stood there, gripping the edge of the counter like it was the only thing holding him up. That almost makes it worse, he finally said. Because it wasn't about sex. It was about something you stopped needing from me. And he was right. That night, we slept in separate rooms. We tried therapy, briefly. We said the right things. Made the right attempts. But some breaks can't be glued back together. Not when the cracks have been growing for years. Eventually, he moved out. We told the kids it was mutual, that sometimes love changes. And in a way, it had. It hadn't died. It had just become something unrecognizable. Daniel?
We didn't last. It was never about him.
Not really. He was a symptom, not the cause. I wish I could say I learned something profound. That I walked away wiser, more whole. But the truth is murkier. Infidelity doesn't come with a tidy moral or a clean ending. Sometimes, it's just a mirror, showing you the parts of yourself you've been trying not to see. Looking back, the moment that stays with me isn't the kiss or the fallout. It's that afternoon in the office. That quiet, loaded stillness when I bent down to pick up those papers and felt him behind me. That was the real moment. The one that changed everything. Because in that split second, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. And I let it pull me under.